Hello everyone, I'm Professor Sanyukta. Welcome everyone to the Risk Management Lecture Series 3. Today in this session, I'm going to discuss different terms that are related to risk management principles, and different measurements of risk. So let's start with the first one, that is different terms related to risk. The first term, which is very common, is peril. The term peril, it means that anything that causes a loss is termed as peril. That is in simple terms, you can say cause of loss is termed as peril. For example, we can say fire, flood, earthquake, lightning, landslide, etc. Anything, any event or incident that may cause a loss is called the peril. The next term is hazard. Anything that accelerates the loss is termed as hazard. That means if the presence of anything that may accelerate the loss, that means whatever the loss is going to occur in ordinary or simple condition, it gets accelerated. So if it is accelerated, that means it increases many times due to the presence of anything, that is termed as hazard. That anything is termed as hazard. So depending on that condition or presence of anything, whatever I'm just explaining this, anything that can accelerate the loss is termed as hazard. Depending on the characteristics of that anything, it can be categorized into different types. Like first one is physical hazards. In case of physical hazards, we can say that anything becomes a physical characteristics or the presence of any physical things, that is termed as physical hazards. Now, for example, the presence of explosives in factory. If there were no explosives in a factory and there is a fire, whatever will be the amount of loss that will get accelerated due to the presence of explosives in factories. So this explosives, presence of explosives, this becomes a physical hazard. Similarly, we can say any truck that is carrying an um, inflammable item, right? So if there is a fire in that or there is an accident with that truck, the loss will increase many number of times rather than if there is an accident with a general vehicle which don't contain any kind of inflammable items. So that is called the physical hazard. Our next category is moral hazards. Now what are moral hazards? That anything we talked about, that anything is related to the characteristics of human beings, related to the moral values, ethics of a person, that increases the amount of loss associated with any kind of, you can say, any kind of event. So this is moral hazards like fraud, bribery, corruption, etc. So that is termed as moral hazards. Now the last category is moral hazards. What is it? Moral hazards, that anything is related to absent-mindedness, carelessness, any characteristics which is, we can say, related to the activities of a person, like absent-mindedness. You can say that you forgot to lock up your door and you just went out of your house and there was a theft. So this is a moral hazard. Many a times there are a lot of losses due to our carelessness because we are not sincere enough. So there is a loss due to that. So that is termed as moral hazard. Now we move on to our next topic, that is risk management principles. Risk manage. What do we mean by principles? First of all, you can say it is a set of ideas that is associated uh, with our actions, right? Now, set of guidelines, you can say guidelines and set of the way we move on to just manage the risk. So that we can say that the process should create value for the organization. Next, it should be an integral part of the overall organizational process. It should factor into the company's overall decision making process. Fourth one, it must explicitly address any uncertainty. Any kind of uncertainty whenever it's just taking place, it should be addressed by the risk management process. It should be systematic and structured. The risk management process should be well defined. It should be very much systematic and well defined by the management, and it should be in a very structured way. Next one, it should be based on the best available information. So all the information should be implemented within the risk management process. It should be tailored to the project. Tailored made means customized as per the requirement of the company, because the risk management process and the different principles, they can vary, and obviously they vary a lot from one company to another, and also within the same company from one project to another. So it should be tailored according to the requirement of the project. Next point is it must take into account human factors, including potential errors. There are also losses due to the human factors, that is potential errors, that I already discussed as moral hazard. So all this kind of losses and coming out of due to this different kind of hazards, they should also be taken care of. It should be transparent and all inclusive. Everybody should know about the proper risk management process. So it should be transparent to all, so that at every point of time, at point of stages, it can be checked properly, and all inclusive. Everything should be included within the risk management process, risk management strategy. It should be adaptable to change. So whenever there is a change, it should also change according to the requirement. Suppose a new risk is just may take place due to some changing environment. So that should also be taken care of. Last, it should be continuously monitored and improved upon. So this risk management process has to be continuously monitored according to the current scenario, whether it's updated or not. And as soon as there is any kind of improvement is there, it should be improved. Now we move on to variance and standard deviation. If we're talking about the measurement of risk, we can say that risk can be measured by variance and standard deviation. Risk refers to variability or dispersion. Dispersion or variability means if we are calculating the expected return, how much is the chance that the return may vary from one label to another. It may vary within a range. It will not be uh, exactly whatever was our expectation, that we already talked in the previous lecture. So whenever there is a chance that the expected return is different than the actual return, that is, we can say the actual return is different from the expected one. So obviously our expectation will be more, but the actual return is less. That means we can say that there is a lot of this. So the return actually lies within a range. Now, if there is a range, so definitely this is what is the variability. So what is that range within which return lies? This is termed as the variability or dispersion. If there is no variability, we said it is riskless, simple. So whatever we expected, that was the return. So it's riskless. The most commonly used measure of risk in finance is variance, and it is the square root of the standard deviation. Now measuring historical return and risks. Here we see that how we can measure. See, the return and risk can be of two types. One is historical, another is the future return and risk. Historical return and risk means already occurred return. You are just calculating what is the return of the last year. Now, if you are going to predict some return in the coming year, that will be our future return, and what is the future risk that is associated with it. If we are going to measure the historical return and risk, the best measurement is return is the arithmetic mean of all the returns. Whatever are the returns, that is R1, suppose R1 for first month in a year, if we are going to find out the return in the last year in 12 months. So R1 we can say it is the rate of return in first month, rate of return in second month is R2, and R3 rate of return in third month, and like this. So 12th month we will get the R12, that divided by 12. N is the number of uh, year or number of months. So here if we are considering the months, it will be 12. So that is the arithmetic mean of all returns, and we get the historical return. Now historical risk, it is given by the variance. Variance is simple given by Ri. That is, for the first year, what we are saying that Ri and minus, it should be the arithmetic of mean of all returns, R bar whole square, and so we make a summation of that and divided by n minus 1. For calculations, we will discuss in later slides, the link of which I will give in the comment box. Now measuring expected return and risk, what is it? Since expected return is not certain, it may vary with some degree of chances or possibilities. So with every expected return, there is a probability which is linked with it. Sorry. So here we are seeing that if we are going to find out the expected return, it is given by RIPI, sigma of tan. This means for the first month, R1 into probability of R1. So suppose we are expecting a return of R1 and we are saying that it is the chances. So probability associated with is PI. So multiplied by this and we'll take it. We'll just have a look at the different formulas right now, and if you will be solving the problems, then it will be very clear, because just by explaining the formula it's not possible to make the students understand about how to find out or calculate the different problems. Now the second one is Variance. Variance is to calculate the expected risk that is associated, and it is given by like Ri minus expected return, and that square multiplied by probability. We are taking the sigma of that. So here we are going to end the lecture of today's session. But in our consecutive lectures, the link of which will be given in the comment box, I will discuss about the different how to find out the expected return and risk, as well as the historical return and risk, by taking some few problems, so that students will be easily able to calculate those problems. Now in the next lecture we are going to discuss about the following topics. First is different important financial risk. Market risk, what do you mean by market risk? Sources of market risk also will be discussing. Measurements of market risk, how we can measure market risk, that we will see. And the last topic to be covered in the next lecture is VAT, that is value at risk. What do you mean by this? This value at risk is a very important measurement of market risk, as well as it can be for other risks. So meaning of that, and if you're getting a value for that, what does that mean? So all these things we are going to cover in the next lecture. So for now, I thanks all my students for hearing patiently. Thank you. See you all in my next lecture.